Alright, here we go with a breakdown of the effect shot with the Maria and Congress engaged in battle. What we have right off here, this is the original background plate shot in film on Lake Champlain. And one of the first things that we noticed as we were looking at this shot is with the way it's framed, where the water meets the land is just about at eye level of the visible horizon, which is fine except that when you then put boats into that environment, they were so high on the screen you lost the masts well above the frame and you just sort of missed out on some of the action. So the first step was to correct this background plate. So what we decided here to do was to move the plate down. Well, that's all fine and good, but when you move the plate down, now you see there's a big gap up in the top of the frame where the sky was, and now there's just nothing. So we have the alignment right, but now we've got to do something about the sky. So since this is supposed to be happening in October, and this was in the summer that this was shot, we figured, well, while we're at it, we know we have to replace the sky since we've gotten rid of half the sky by our camera adjustment. So while we're in here, we'll put a new sky in, and let's also throw in some color to swing the hues of the leaves more toward an autumn kind of feel and increase the contrast as well. So then you end up with this sort of corrected. Okay, and now what we have here over the fixed background plate is a wireframe pass. So what we've done here is we've taken the boats that have been constructed laboriously over weeks upon weeks for accuracy. We're moving them around in the plate to get a feel for how we want the boats to act to each other. And as you can see, on the mesh of the sails, this also represents a dynamic simulation having been run on the sails to get it to move properly as it's being blown by the wind and the motion of the boat and such. And so here's where we sort of set our motion. And we use the wireframes for this because it's not quite so taxing for the machine to move these around. So this is the wireframe pass. Okay, now what we're going to bring in is the shaded pass. And what this is that prior wireframe model has been rendered now in the computer. What that means is the computer has figured out shadows and colors and all that sort of thing to give it the more real look. And this is raw right out of the computer, so you can see we're not quite there yet. Although it looks neat, there's still a long way to go to get it to look like it's actually there. There's no interaction with the water, and there's no sort of atmospheric effects or color corrections, so it really pops right out. It looks like it is just pasted on top, and it doesn't fit into the plate. So then we move on to our next step. Okay, now I'm going to bring in what I'm going to call, anyway, the atmospherics pass. And what this is doing is adding those elements that make the boat really start to fit into its environment. You can see right off the bat we've got a little bit of wake at the bow of the Congress, sort of marrying her to the water. Now she's casting a shadow on the water, which again helps to marry it to the scene. There's also some reflection there. One of the big ones is, though, that we've put some atmospheric haze, especially between us and the Maria, because she's so much further away. So where before she popped out, now it's a little more subtle, it's a little more washed into that background. Also, it's blurred somewhat too, because this original background plate had some blur to it. And so we take the sharp edge off that. Now the boat starts to sit into that frame a lot better. And same thing with the Congress now. She has a little bit of a foreground haze over her, and there's that smoke that's coming from amidships, sort of a just smoldering column of smoke that's just being carried with the boat. Alright, so now I'll bring in what was considered the final version, and on this one you can see we've added all of the cannons and the impacts of the cannonballs on the boat, all the particles of wood flying off, and all the water splashes from missed cannon shots and from big chunks of wood hitting the ground. And you can really see why that guy in the stern is falling down, because that big hit right there on the starboard quarter. And it also, I'll note here, and this is one of the typical of effect shots, there's actually 16 guys at that bank of cannons, all working, all loading and running them out, but just by the chance of the way the camera angle shows up, can't see them. But they're there. Well, but it's still fun. Anyway, there is the Congress fully engaged finished shot. And just for fun, I'll do a wipe of the here's the Congress shot plus her going all the way back to the beginning of the original plate. You can see how radically different they are. So there you go. There's your standard effect shot.